I've always been big since I was young,
Yeah.
and it was just something that, as I grew up, I was always alone, so to speak. I always had this thought like I was not good enough. So I was bullied since I was young. I started off in special education, so I was already a target for a lot of people. And then as I was growing up, I would continue to be bullied.
Yeah.
And for me, not having many friends and feeling like I was alone, there was only one thing that could help me fill that void, and that was food.
Obesity is currently one of the biggest problems in the world, negatively affecting every aspect of our lives. Because of this, I decided to hear from real people, the real stories. I want to know what made them put on the weight in the first place. Are these people really just junk food addicts who are too lazy to exercise? Or is there much more to the story hiding behind the wall of fat? I want to know, what was the turning point in their life to say enough is enough? And how do they overcome their biggest challenges? We believe that the real people have more good answers than even the best weight loss programs. We hope that they will inspire, educate and motivate all of us to make changes in our lives. And this is how, together, we can contribute towards a better, healthier and happier world.
So we've got Charles here from New Jersey in America joining us today, and he's on his weight loss journey, and he's lost so far over 80 pounds in weight. So welcome, Charles. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I've been so waiting for this moment. The moment I met you, I thought this guy has got a big heart and he's on a mission to have a big impact on people around the world who also have similar weight loss problems, and they want to overcome and take their life to a whole new level.
Oh, fantastic. Well, hey, from what you gathered me from our first meeting on Instagram, I am, like I told you before, making me blush right now. Like a little schoolgirl.
Me and my wife, we are lifestyle preventative medicine specialists.
Okay.
My wife's a doctor. I'm an ex-professional athlete. So we want to have an impact on the world. Some stats for you just to know that in the UK, if things don't change by 2050, everybody's going to be overweight and 50% of people are going to be obese. And in the US, by 2035, the country will be bankrupt if we don't change this lifestyle that we are living. So through people like you and through people like me, we can make an impact and have a really big influence on people around the world. So where you come into the picture is, you're somebody that's, lost a lot of weight and wants to lose more weight. So you're able to explain to people that are in a similar position to you and maybe similar position to where you used to be, that can relate to you as a person. So you're there to encourage them, to motivate them, to give them information of how you did certain things.
I am always open book there, David, so we are ready to rock and roll.
Where does this weight loss or where does this weight gain all start from? Where is it triggering from? What's the root cause of this?
I've always been big since I was young.
Yeah.
And it was just something that, as I grew up, I was always alone, so to speak. I always had this thought like I was not good enough. So I was bullied since I was young. I started off in special education, so I was already a target for a lot of people. And then as I was growing up, I would continue to be bullied.
Yeah.
And for me, not having many friends and feeling like I was alone, there was only one thing that could help me fill that void, and that was food. So, while a lot of people would go out with their friends and feel fantastic, I would use food as a way to help me feel great about myself. I remember getting made fun of a lot when I was in school by the other kids. I remember even I would be bullied by my cousins when I was younger, and I just always never felt good enough because of it, because of the fact that I was always picked and teased on for my size, for example. And then for, you know, being in the special ed class, it just seemed to pile up, and it just made me feel so alone. Like,
how many years ago was it since you've left school? So you obviously, you know, you were in school, and then did you go to college, or did you just?
I did go to college. I went to college for a few years. I actually went to school in the beginning for nursing because my mom's Filipino, my dad's Egyptian. My mom wanted me to take on nursing. I originally wanted to do theater and all that stuff, but she said, you know, you should do this because it'll provide a future for you, and so on and so forth. So
I can see the Filipino in you, know?
Oh, really? Oh, thank you very much. The Asian persuasion, so to speak. Yeah,
it's a good combination.
Oh yeah, it's a good and very rare combination. So I'm like a unicorn right now. You know what I'm saying, David?
So you went into college because your mother wanted you to become a nurse, yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I went there with actually my brother and sister, because even though we're different ages, you know, we went to nursing at the same time, and they continued forward, and I failed out my first semester of college in nursing. It wasn't really something I had it wasn't really something I had my heart set on for. And since that time, I was like I was going through a really rough period because they moved on to graduate while I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my 20s. So I went on to try theater for a while. I liked it. It was great, but it wasn't something that I had a bad experience with a teacher, so I kind of forgot about it. And then I was with a girl at the time in a relationship, and I was like, oh, maybe I should give nursing a shot again because I wanted to provide a future for her. So I went on my own without my mom telling me what to do. I went back to nursing school, and I made it 3 semesters. So at the end, it wasn't just it was something I never really had in my heart to finish. Throughout that time, you know, from senior year of high school forward, I was always trying to lose weight at the time. So that's when my whole weight loss journey began. And all throughout that, I actually got certified to teach spin and personal training. So I always liked spin. I always liked teaching spin, and I always liked group training. And that's what I was doing throughout all that time in college. So when I not graduated, but when I failed out of nursing school again, I had to ask myself, you know, what the hell am I going to do? And one of my friends said, oh, why don't we just work out in your garage? Because he didn't notice I came back home. I was like, yeah, why not? At that time, I was certified in CrossFit, teaching that and stuff like that. So we started training in my garage as I went back to college again for something else. And then all of a sudden, we started telling our friends. And then it started getting bigger and bigger. So I was pretty much growing a gym out of my garage.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
Yeah. And then ever since those college days and those garage days, I decided to go full tilt into running a gym. So even though I started my garage, we grew to the point where we had to move to a bigger space. So for the past 5 years, I've been running a gym. That's
awesome. That's fantastic. Well done. So you have your own business? I
do have my own business. It used to be a CrossFit gym, and here's the funny story, which ties into my whole philosophy of life. Back then, when we were a CrossFit gym, we were called CrossFit House of Pain. So that was a very interesting name. And then as I started to learn more about myself, why I was still hitting these triggers, even though I was training hard and all that other fun stuff, and I started asking myself, what do I really want in life? And just like yourself, it's to make people happy. So my gym changed from CrossFit House of Pain to we're no longer a CrossFit gym. We're no longer that name. And for the past 3 years, we've been known as CHOP, the happiest gym on earth.
So there's a lot of kids out there now who get bullied in school, get picked on, get laughed at, feel by themselves, feel lonely, and they turn to alternatives to comfort themselves, yes?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
So when you were going through all this, who was there to help you? You know, who would you go to talk to, or wouldn't you because you were ashamed or scared to tell anybody about what was going on? How did it go?
I'll be honest, when I was younger, I did not have any outlet to talk about this. Back, growing up with my parents, and I think this is with a lot of parents, if we decide to tell them, they would think it has nothing to do with self-esteem issues or that kind of emotional attachment. They think it's something as simple as you need to eat less, you're looking big. So I never really had that space to talk about how I felt growing up being bullied and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big issue with a lot of kids, because we see one of the big reasons to change is to use nutrition and training, which I wholeheartedly agree with. But I think one thing we tend to neglect is how are kids feeling. You know what I mean?
So you didn't have that person or people to go to speak to because you thought that they wouldn't listen to you, they would think other things.
Yeah, I absolutely did not have anyone to talk to.
Yeah. And
even I remember when I was a senior in high school and I started learning about working out and stuff like that, I had one trainer, and any trainer I had there, we never really touched upon any of that stuff. And I remember there's one time where I think I had like a weekend where I ate like a lot of calories, and then my trainer at the time, when I gave him my food log, he kind of like ridiculed me for what I had, and I just sat there crying in his office because I saw the scale and I didn't understand anything about water retention, so it went up 12 pounds, and I was just standing there crying, and I thought there was something wrong with me, instead of that trainer kind of understanding why I'm crying all of a sudden and helping me realize why I do these things to myself.
So if you could change one thing or a few things to going back to your childhood, because obviously you thought, thinking is completely different than actually doing, because the outcome normally isn't what you actually think the outcome is going to be. And a lot of people have this perception that if they go and tell somebody something, then they already thinking the answer to the question, or projecting the answer to the question, rather than just going and just saying. So when you were a kid, so there's two things. So when you were a kid, were your parents advising you not to eat junk foods, or were they feeding you the junk foods?
They really didn't have much time. I'll have to I will say with my parents, they come from a generation that didn't really know much about healthy eating. It's not like we have parents now who are really involved with their nutrition and stuff like that, because they came from opposite ends of the world. So back for them, they really didn't know much about nutrition. I mean, I remember my mom telling me you had to sit down. We would sit down once a day and just have hot water with ginger in it for health reasons. I was like, this is ridiculous. But that was just one of the things she believed in. And even I remember and the one thing that was unfortunate was that my parents were always busy. So my mom had to work 2 jobs to support us. So she, she was always a great mom when she was around us.
Yes.
But it was hard for her to be around when she had to work 2 jobs to support us. So there was one time where she bought a whole bunch of Pizza Hut pizzas and put it in the freezer. And she says, anytime I'm not here, feel free to grab some slices out of the freezer from Pizza Hut, so that way you don't go hungry. So it was really hard for her to kind of instill those good values in us when she herself was, really busy. And then same thing with my dad too. He was busy a lot in his job as well. So I personally have gotten into these patterns not just like overnight. There were stuff that's been deeply embedded into how I was raised. And if we could address all that stuff early on in life, then it helps us create a better relationship with food. And I think that's something that we all tend to miss the mark on.
But we can do it now.
What's that?
We can do it now.
Exactly. We could do it right now with our kids. And that's why I talk with my friend a lot of times, just like the idea, the language that we use with our kids. So if I hear my mom tell me about me to go on a diet, that has negative connotations when it comes to that. But when we talk about, oh, let's try to just, have better nutrition or fix, or just learning about how to have a better relationship with food. If this was introduced early on, I think things would be so much better with things. Yeah. And instead of people feeling like I need to count calories or this, we start to do things more auto-regulated. So it's not even a second thought.
So it seems to me like you start and you stop. You stopped a lot of things in the past. You start something, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say the reason behind that is?
I think the reason why I started and stopped, that's a good question right there, David. I think it's because when I'm met with resistance, or when we talked about earlier, like if I get overwhelmed, I'll have a tendency to shut down. Yeah. And then I'll move on to the next thing because I feel like I'm not good enough. So when I was in acting school, it happened. The reason why I left, well, obviously my teacher was a horrible person, but I thought I was doing well, and then she basically told me in my exit interview that I'm not good enough to be in my other class. So that's why I didn't go back there. When I was in nursing school, I had too much on my plate. Like I was with a girl at the time who had a kid, who had a crazy ex-husband, on top of coaching, on top of being president of my nursing class. So that kind of overwhelmed me a little bit. So I couldn't really perform well enough to pass in nursing school.
So if we go back to the point where you were in the acting school, if these things happen again, what would you do differently?
I think the one thing I would do differently is not base my worth on what someone else tells me.
So what would you do?
What's that?
So if somebody says to you now, why are you bothering going to the gym and working out? You're never going to lose the weight. What would you do?
I would say, that's your opinion, Chief. I'm going to keep on doing me. And that was the biggest thing that helped me break a lot of barriers in the past few years. Because I placed my worth in so many people's ideas of who I am or what I should be. Or place my happiness. My happiness being dependent on what someone thinks of me.
Do you care what people think of you?
I used to. Actually, I still do. I'll be honest. As much as I try to fight that, there's always that one instance where...
Let me give you one advice. If you take it on board and really embed it into you, this will change your whole life. Don't care what other people think of you.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as you embed that into you, it's a game changer. Because the problem is with a lot of people, and I can see that you also are part of this, is that you care about what people think of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do a lot of things because you want to impress other people, or you do things to impress people. Yes.
Oh yeah, there's a big part of me that does that.
Start doing things to impress yourself, not other people.
Oh yeah.
As soon as you start doing this, your whole life will change.
Oh, most definitely. And I felt that when I've had those moments where I stopped caring what other people think. And you're definitely right. So
why did you go back there?
What was that?
Why do you go back there?
It's kind of like when that happens, it doesn't happen. So I think, like for example, when I was going through this rough patch the past week, I went there because basically I had a friend, and we're nothing, we've been very good friends. And then basically she's saying that I said something where I absolutely did not, where I was like internet shaming her or whatever, and I didn't have her in the back of my head. But my thought process was, oh my God, I can't believe she doesn't like me anymore, whatever the case is. So that was just something that took me by surprise. It doesn't happen nearly as much as it used to in the past, like especially now on Instagram, because now there's a lot of internet trolls, so to speak. And when I make posts, I used to be so concerned with what people thought, and then I just slowly did not care anymore. And then even though they do it, it's kind of, I'm able to throw it to the wayside. But this one hit a little close to home, you know what I mean? It's like something that you wouldn't expect. And I think that's why that happened this time.
So how long have you known this person? I've
known her for about a year.
So not that long?
Yeah, not that long. But I have a tendency to, if there's one thing I'm very good at, it's becoming good friends with someone. I know that's weird to say, but if there's someone
you're a nice guy, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
being a nice guy, it's a gift and a curse.
There's no curse. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing to do with you. It's just to do with other people. You know, other people change things themselves. You know, you're not going to change because you're a nice guy. They need to change because they're not doing the right things. They don't have the right core values within themselves with other people. So you don't need to change anything in that respect by yourself. Continue to be nice. Continue to want to help people. Continue to want to have an impact on people's lives, because that's what you were born to do. And don't change for anybody in that department.
Oh, thank you so much for that reminder, David, because sometimes I even get, as much as I remember that, there's those points in life where I just the inner critic tends to want to take over, and sometimes we need that reminder. So thank you so much. It's, you know, being the nice guy, there's a lot of great things that come with it, but at the same time, it's like caring too much. Sometimes it feels like a hindrance, but that's what makes us who we are. You know,
remember, life is a journey. So you're going to come across people that may do something or say something that maybe not be the appropriate thing to do and say to a person or to you. But there's billions of people in the world that will really respect you, will really be thankful that they've met you, be really happy for you as a person in what you are doing. And, you know, you will have these friends will be around for life. What you're going to do with friends or with people is that you've got to understand that you are going to get those type of people are going to come along. So what you have to remember is that, like, one thing I say to people is that you are 1/5 of the 5 most people you spend the time with. Mm-hmm. So if there's people in your life that are holding you back, that are not having a good effect on your life in a positive way, then you need to get rid of them. That's what you got to do, because they're going to affect you for the rest of your life. Otherwise, they're going to always drag you down. They're going to stop you from doing and achieving the things that you want to do in your life. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that you abandon them, but you are aware of them, and you don't spend as much time as you used to do. You know, you find those people that are going to lift you up, that are going to be there no matter what. They're going to support you when you need that support. They're going to help you. That's what you need to do. What would you say, you know, you've done some work on yourself over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. What would you say is the root cause behind all this? You know, what is the pinpoint that you would say, look, this is what I really need to work on to annihilate for me to take my life to the next level?
The one thing I really had to work on in order to take my life to the next level is understanding that my answers was not in a diet or a training program, and it had to do with more on the inside. You know, there's a lot of people who will say that, oh, I found this diet and this has been the answer to all my problems, or I found this training program, this has been all the answers to my life. I've done all that stuff in the past. I've done many different diets, some as, you know, like the usual, like paleo, whatever the case is, something as extreme as an all protein shake diet for a month. I know I have the willpower. Same thing with training. I'm a pretty physically fit specimen for my size there, David.
I've seen you move.
Exactly. I'm messing around in life, and I've done some crazy things in my life. I've done Tough Mudders, I've done powerlifting, CrossFit, whatever the case is. And
so you're all good with the training aspect, you're good with the eating, you've got good willpower when it comes to it.
Exactly. I could develop discipline and willpower like nobody's business.
Yeah.
What happened was, when all that fades away, why is that the case? And a big reason why, and I had to learn about myself, is that there's a lot of things that I had to work on emotionally. So a big reason why, you know, what we talked about when I was younger, never feeling good about myself. And every time I would diet and exercise in the past, I would do it because I don't like myself. I wanted to change myself physically So that way I could potentially like who I am, not just on the outside, but on the inside.
Yeah.
I remember there was a monologue, like I had an acting class in senior year of high school, and we had to write a monologue. And I basically performed this monologue in the middle of my class that's called It's All in the Love Handle, saying how much I hate my body and I'm going to get it in shape so that way I could get the girl, so that way I could be famous or whatever the case is, because it's all in the love handles. So I really had a bad relationship with myself. And the one thing that I had I had this incident happen a few years ago with a couple coaches I had. Once that happened, I started seeing a therapist, and that's when we started digging into those deeper questions of about why I self-sabotage, what my childhood was like. And one of the things that really helped me take things to the next level was understanding that in order to be able to make long-lasting changes, I first have to learn how to love myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to love yourself first before you can start loving other people. How are you meant to give love if you can't give love to yourself?
Exactly. And being able to reframe how we view our training and nutrition. So instead of saying to myself, I'm gonna go to the gym because I burned off the bad stuff I had this weekend, I had to learn how to go to the gym as a way to honor myself, and because I love myself so much, I want to take care of myself. So being able to understand learn how to fall in love with myself and reestablish my relationship with food, that was a huge thing to help me kind of make my decisions a lot easier in life. Overall, the underlying theme is talking more about what's been going on. If you see,
it's about getting it off your shoulders. It's not about not keeping it in. It's about telling people and inspiring people to change and to be able to understand they can open up and talk about whatever it is that they want. They don't have this ego about it, or put on this face that everything is fine. You want to be able to communicate this with people.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's been I'd say in the past 7 months, it's been huge. Everything has been very consistent with my habits. In the past 7 months from that retreat I told you about, because I was able to allow myself to be more vulnerable. I think an issue with a lot of people, mainly men, because women are much better at this than men are, is being vulnerable with who we are. And I think when it comes to nutrition training, men have a very big issue of like, if I'm not reaching my goals, if I'm going back and forth, they like to play it off as, it's only because of the fact I'm not on the right diet or training. You ask them anything about how are you feeling, what's your life like, they don't want to talk about it. Yeah. And that was me for a long time. But what happens is, like when you mentioned, when I didn't get it off my shoulders, it would manifest into something toxic. So me not talking about my life or my vulnerability made me go ahead and use food as a way to kind of fill that void. And I would isolate from people. When I'd get into a real big funk, I would just sit in my room and order pizza. And if I was with my family, I would hide it before they come back home. I would never talk about my issues with people, and it would always lead to stuff like that.
So what's missing in your life now, Charles?
What's missing in my life right now? I'd say there's just a little bit, there's those moments of life where you're just like, that's a really good question there. And that's one of those right now there, David.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say what's missing in your life now?
I'd say growing up. Because I think what's happened is, like, I've been so afraid in the past of certain things. Like, even when it comes to the gym, I still have time for.
Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid? What are you afraid of?
I first wanted to say growing up, but there's always like these, I call it adulting, which is what you hear a lot, like taking care of these tasks. Like, I don't know if I'm ready, like what's going to happen. There's always that apprehension.
So,
you know what I mean?
What are you afraid of?
I don't know. I'm afraid of failing.
Failing of what?
I'm afraid of.
Failing of what?
Like with the gym, for example, it's just failure to.
What you afraid of failing of?
Let's see. I'm afraid of not feeling like it always goes back to not feeling good enough.
So you're scared of failing because you feel like you're not going to be good enough if you fail.
Yeah, that's happened a lot in my life where, with my brother and sister.
Okay, so let's say you fail. Okay, what's the worst case scenario? What happens?
I'll be broke, end up on the street.
And then what happens?
I don't know, I just have no life. I have to fend for money.
So you're telling me you've built up this amazing business for the last 5 years, yeah? You've gained all this knowledge, all this experience, you know how to build a business, to make a successful business, to make money, grow a business, get people involved in your business, get people into your business, you know how to do all this, yeah?
Yeah.
So if I said to you, Charles, come to London, I want you to set up this here in London, you could do it, yeah?
I could.
So if your gym went bankrupt, you could set up another one if you wanted to, yeah?
I could. I'd have to find a way to get resources, but I definitely could.
You could do it, yeah?
Yeah.
So there's no fear of you going into that direction because you've done it all before and you can do it again if you wanted to, yes?
You're right, I could.
Yeah? And also another point, everybody fails in life, yeah? You get more failures than you win winners. That's just the way that things work. The reason why it works like that, and I don't call it as failures, I call it as life experiences. Mm. Yeah, that's what makes us grow. That's what makes us get better. That's what makes us get stronger. Mm-hmm. That's what makes us change things. That's what learns us a lesson not to do it that way again. We will do it this way. And then maybe that way won't be the right way. So then we do it another way until we get it right. Because I can see you're not somebody to give up easily, are you?
Oh, definitely not.
No?
Yeah.
When it comes to things that you feel strong about, there's no stopping you, yes?
Definitely not.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But I think there's a part of you that does a lot of things because you want to impress others, yes?
Yeah.
And that's not the right driver to have.
Yeah. It's been as much as it's improved in the past few years, there's still that part of me that still wants to please others.
So that's one thing that you have to work on and start understanding that you are not here to please anybody else. Just focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Don't impress people. Don't do things because you're going to impress people, because you've set up a gym or you've lost this amount of weight or you've achieved this. Do it all for yourself because that's the most important thing of all, is that you do these things for yourself, not for anybody else.
Yeah. And
your failures, you're scared of failing because then it goes back into this sport that you feel that everybody else is going to laugh at you because you've not succeeded in something, because you care about what everybody else thinks about your success, yes?
Oh, yeah. I didn't make that connection till now, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So they both interlink with each other. So as soon as you can start thinking about doing things for yourself and not for anybody else, and it comes back to the point which you said earlier about you've got to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. So you have to help yourself first before you can help other people. Yeah. And the quicker you can do this, the quicker you are able then to have a bigger impact on more people around the world. Going back to that point that you made, you're scared of failing, and you are scared of failing because you want to impress everybody that you're successful and you've achieved X, Y, and Z. So you are going to fail. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You are going to fail. Everybody's going to fail in something or another. But what you've got to understand, you've got to turn that word failure into another meaning. A meaning of that's something that you've experienced, that you can do differently, that you can do better, that you don't have to do that same mistake that you've done before. What's the purpose of life for you? What's this all about? What's life about for you?
I was giving this some thought actually a few weeks ago, and
what's the first answer that comes to you?
Make people happy.
That's what
make the world a happier place.
So, but why didn't you start off with yourself first?
That's actually in the past year and a half. The big reason why I started that Team Wagon page is to obviously to focus on my journey. It never was about trying to make an impact. It was about trying to have a log for myself. And in that journey in the past year, that one I've really put the focus on going from pleasing others to loving myself more. And I've been doing a lot more of that, especially in the past 7 months. So with that being said, and I know when I'm feeling great about myself and I love myself, because when I love myself and I feel great about myself, the gym does much better. When I don't, then it doesn't. So, you know, right now I'm in a good place. And,
so what do you have to do to keep in this good place?
One is just, you know, making sure I vent on how I feel, and I continue doing things for me, which we've just talked about.
Yeah.
Instead of others. So, like, now I do things to foster love for myself. I've learned to, start slowly cutting people out of my life who have, tried to suck energy away from me.
So why didn't you just cut them out? Why do you need to cut them slowly? Just cut them out.
Well, that's the nice guy part of me.
Let's say you've got X amount of time to live, okay, and you want to maximize yourself to live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to get into a position in your life as a person to be able to love yourself, to be able to get yourself to this point, to then really have a big impact on other people in the world. Yeah?
Yeah.
So would you, when you're going to isolate these people out of your life, would you do it slow or would you do it quick to get the big impact? You do it fast. Okay, so that's what you need to do. Okay?
Yeah.
Do it fast.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are not benefiting you in a positive way, get rid of them. In terms of like the way that you the way you look, the way you feel, what is it that you want to achieve?
Right now, I just told myself I want to be able to fit into like I have a mannequin in my room that has gold clothes I want to fit into.
So what is it that you need to do to obtain that?
Aside from my training and nutrition?
Yeah.
Keep fostering that love within myself.